group up here. So, Chad, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, folks. My name is Chad Ritchie, and I have a wonderful group up here with me today. And we're going to talk about how this CUSS group is taking action. We've been talking about this ideas into action, and what does that mean? And each of the folks up here with me today have some thoughts on that. George and Fernando put it out there that this is something that we need to do. And we talked about speed. It's what I often refer to as dramatically increasing speed to market, because that gives us relevancy. And I think this is a very important thing that we're going to talk about today. If we can't be there when our members need us to be there and the way they need us to be there, we start to become irrelevant. And this is an issue that credit unions as a whole are potentially facing, because we are behind the times with technology and we haven't been able to innovate at the pace that we want to. And because of that, as we've talked about the generations today, and we've seen that folks have different expectations from different generations, there is now more than one group of people who don't understand that banking has to be hard. Banking's a chore. Shopping's a chore. Well, I can shop on Amazon, that's pretty easy. Watching movies on Netflix, pretty easy. Ordering groceries from Instacart, pretty easy. So why is this banking thing so hard? Well, some of us in this room still understand why it's so hard. These systems had to be built. These things were complex. It took time. These financial transactions aren't easy. These are things that are more complicated. But there is the generations that are coming up that have an expectation that it shouldn't be. So it is about relevancy. When we think about this idea of CUSS and putting things into action, how do we do this? George and Fernando just talked about this great idea of in Canada where you can have these shared services and you can have all this accessibility for smaller credit unions, because we don't want them to become irrelevant, because cores are expensive. And if you're a smaller credit union, how can you possibly compete with the $1 billion+ credit unions that can bring these experiences to market? Well, shared services is a way that we can do that. So the folks on stage today, we've talked about how do we get this into action, and we've asked folks, our vendors, our partners, how do we make this thing real? It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to make it real. That's not an easy thing to do. And how do we do it? So there were a group of folks that raised their hands, the folks up on this stage, and said, we will invest in this. We will give time and resources to this. We will give money to this. We will try and figure out a way to move forward. So with that, Liz, why is this meaningful to you?
This is, so shared services is something that we live and breathe at Extend. We believe that it's not, that success is not critical to an individual organization, it's critical to an ecosystem and a group of organizations. We believe in interdependence. And I'll give you a few examples of that. So Extend we work with just under 400 clients, and we have 102 owners, equal owner, equal vote. You own Extend. And that's very important to us, is that you own the technology, you own what you put your money toward, because it stays in the credit union industry then. And it's protected too. There's some shock absorption that happens in there. And my organization works, and we do shared resources. So we've been talking about shared resources for a very long time. We've been in business for 22 years, and we have shared resources like a contact center, mortgage servicing, bookkeeping, marketing, data analytics, and many more. And what we often describe it as is the half-body syndrome. So I need someone to answer my phones, but only 20 hours a week. Hey, I need someone to answer my phones only 20 hours a week. That's great. Let's have them do it. And we don't prioritize that based on how much money the credit unions give us. Every credit union of every size, and we work with billion on down. So if you looked at the ratio of credit unions that we work with, those 400, it's around the same ratio as what you would see in the credit union industry. So we have about 3/4 of our credit unions are under 100 million. And that positions us really well, especially because they're owners, to be able to influence. And that's the value that we bring, is our credit unions, not just as owners, but as users. You don't have to be an owner to use our products and to get the cost-effective resources that we have. Your voice matters, and we demonstrate that throughout the entire year. We go to the credit unions, and I heard someone earlier say, go to the credit unions. Yeah, we go to the credit unions, and that's how we created something. So we have a pretty great new member onboarding journey. I'm not here to sell that to you, but we have a new member onboarding journey. And how it started was, years ago, we walked into a CEO's office, and they had a stack of papers sitting on their desk. And we said, what are those? And they said, I need to call my new members from the past year. And we were, budding organization. We're like, well, just pay us $1. Actually, we'll do it for free. And we started doing all this stuff for free. And how we started was we had 5 credit unions threw $5,000 in a hat because they believed that they could share the resources. We didn't have rules around it. What we did was we just said, equal owner, equal vote. Nobody's going to have priority here. We're all going to have equality in this. And we've grown to what we are today, which is a pretty thriving CUSO, I believe. And so that's why it's so important to me. I can talk about this for hours.
Thank you, Liz. And Rahul, same question. Why is this important to you and your group at TalkDesk?
Because I'm a credit union lover. Like I believe in that philosophy. I started at TalkDesk 4 years ago, and we had 0 credit unions as customers.
Really?
That was the first thing I wanted to change. TalkDesk, we offer technology for credit unions to offer the best member experience, give the members the choice in which they want to engage with the credit union. We offer, and we try to make it easy for credit unions to be able to adopt our technology. We have heard about core banking platforms and the fear in integrations, and we've heard from Stephen around digital banking platforms. Our goal is to give you a platform that can plug into your ecosystem. You are a Fiserv shop, Jack Henry shop, Mambu shop, correlation shop. To us, it doesn't really matter. Any permutation combination of the technology that exists in your ecosystem, we can plug in. What does it do for credit unions? It takes the complexity of adopting modern technology away from them, and we take the onus of delivering that to them. So accelerating time to value, making it easy for them to take advantage of modern technology to drive business value. Now, why are we interested in the shared services model? What has been painful to me at times is, what is the definition of a small credit union? Do they do anything different than a bigger bank that they compete with? They offer the same banking products. Maybe they offer better services. But then what is painful to us is when we show them the platform, they get really excited about it, but then the economics come into play, right? The resourcing come into play. So it's like, hey, we really like this technology. I don't know if we can afford it, or I don't think we have the resources to manage it. And I want to get rid of that. The shared services model gives us the option to allow credit unions, irrespective of the size, your 20 billion, 500 million, truly doesn't matter, as long as your goal is to eliminate bad experiences, and your goal is to, your objective is purpose-led and mission-driven. We want to partner with you. So I think, TalkDesk, we feel we are firmly part of the credit union movement. We have a fantastic, vibrant community of credit unions on our platform. Now we partner with Liz and her organization. So this is exciting times for us. I think we truly look at credit unions, credit union as a segment around which we want to build growth for our individual organization.
Thank you, Rahul. And Steve, over at MAP, same question. Why is this meaningful to you?
So MAP's my third CUSO that I've worked for. So I'm not only a credit union person, but I'm a CUSO person. I've seen what's great about it. I've seen what doesn't work about it. It's often the exact same challenges that credit unions have. If you have a good board and you're well capitalized, you can just charge forward. And if you have problems with either of the first two, the third one gets a little harder to do. But when I was recruited to come join MAP, Cindy Martini, who started the CUSO, had been the CEO for 25 years. She started it out of the Washington State League. And for 25 years, it has been a pure CUSO, meaning there is no asset size of client that we will or won't serve. In fact, Scott, who was on a prior panel, is one of our longest customers of our CUSO at 38 million in assets, and he gets the same service levels as GISA, our largest credit union, and one of our owners at 6 billion. So Being a CUSO gives us the opportunity to offer that level of service, but it is not easy, meaning you have to do a lot of math, and the math in the payment space is the more volume you have and the more spend you have, the more money the brands give you, and if you don't have that, then the only way that we're going to be able to service you is to really truly focus on service and math and do a lot of the hard things in the middle as the services layer, and that to me was a really good challenge. So that was the challenge the owners gave me in taking over the CUSO. And then literally the second week that I was the CEO, there's a large processor of small credit unions that we were trying to finalize a formal partnership with, and the CEO of that very large processor said, why don't you come to my CEO event? Like, let me share with you why I'm passionate about serving small credit unions. I said, sure, and I was there anonymously. I didn't have a badge. I wasn't supposed to be announced. I wasn't on any list, and I was sitting at a round table. There were a bunch of round tables of 10 in this room. There were about 60 small credit union CEOs. And I won't name her, but she's amazing. If I did, most of you probably know her. There was a lady that was sitting in front of me, had her back to me, and she raised her hand as somebody was presenting and said, does everyone realize that the CEO of MAP is right behind me? And I had no idea that was coming, and spent the next day and a half hearing really amazing stories from CEOs of small credit unions. There's lots of definitions of small. In the payments world, I'll give you the current Steve Bone definition of small. It's 200 million in assets and below. I will tell you right now, some of our competitors have said to us, if you have a formula and a way that you can service credit unions under 200 million in assets, we'll help you. Not just we're going to compete with you, we'll help you, right? And then Visa and MasterCard, we've finally in the last few months convinced them, you got a lot of challenges on the Hill. You have a lot of challenges politically. You have a lot of challenges coming on interchange, regardless of who's going to win this election. Interchange actually helps support a lot of small credit unions and a lot of small communities. It's January data, but it's actually 73% of the credit unions in the US are under 200 million in assets, and 50% of the cities in the United States have less than 1,000 people. So as a cross-section of those two things, and then you take certain seg credit unions, there's lots of opportunity for a payment servicer to provide quality if you can figure out the math and the model. We're just very fortunate as a 25-year CUSO that we think we've got the math. We think with Scott and a number of other clients of ours that we've learned, and we want to be a force for good. It just feels, as a person, it feels really good to have a role in some of the stories that some of these credit unions serve, and how they serve their members, and how they use debit and credit to actually help people in real ways. We have credit unions who take all of their rewards and put it into an immediately same-day savings account for their owners at 5% interest, and they do it automatically because they want to solve the problem that a large portion of people in this country don't have a $400 emergency fund, right? We have another credit union we work with that has affiliates, and local school districts and fire departments and police departments have their own card, and some of the interchange goes and funds protective equipment. It sends kids to events at schools that otherwise wouldn't get to go. So that, for me, in terms of why I want to be part of the Underground and part of the shared services platform, is I want to make a difference from a human perspective. And when you've worked in financial services technology for 33 years, it's kind of abstract to explain to people that you really want to do that. But I think with MAP and with the CUSO, with Sue and the Underground and this amazing organization, it just opens up the opportunity for us to figure it out.
Thank you, Steve. This is just a small representation of the people who raised their hands to try and take part in this. And I'm going to ask each of you in a second what you think of. I'm going to give you a minute to think about this. When we think of the ideal future state, let's say that we can get this CUSS thing to work and we can get the shared services model to get some adoption and some traction. What does that ideal future state look like to each of you? I'll ask you that in just a minute. But there are other folks who are part of this that we don't have up on the stage today. The group has got together, and how do we try and figure out how to create a tech stack that could be leveraged by smaller credit unions. It could be leveraged by any credit union that could ideally have this sense of shared services. So I want to call out one person in particular. Ryan, are you in the room today? There's Ryan, right? Everyone, give Ryan a big round of applause. He's the architect for for a lot of what we did. And this is, as Fernando was talking about with Canada, they have this model working, and the idea of getting this model working in the States isn't something that's terribly difficult, but it does require some action. And this is the group that we're trying to take a step in that direction. How do we start to get something like this to take effect? So I want to take for a moment, and let's assume that we do get this working. Let's assume we manage to find the momentum, and we manage to get the investment, we manage to get the resources and the people, and we can build this thing. What does that future state look like to you? How do you fit into that future state?
We believe, and we talked about this earlier, that technology is not disruptive. We think that what you do with the tool is disruptive. And we've seen some organizations in the Michigan area that it feels very inauthentic on how they're trying to create a shared resource model. So what they're doing is they're saying, join our credit union and we will manage you from a managerial perspective and you'll keep your brand. And it hasn't worked, and then they merge in. Feels very inauthentic to us. And so that's why I think that when credit unions own, when they're able to have equal ownership in what it looks like, and you're driving it from a separate organization like a CUSO that has, believes in you, you can have success with that. So future for me looks like having more shared services. I'd open the doors and give anybody the playbook on what Extend has done.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Rahul.
One of the things that I think I see in the future is how do we make the technology buying decision simpler? I think with everything that's out there, especially if you consider yourself a small credit union, I'll be very specific because I do not conform to that terminology. But if you consider yourself a smaller credit union and you don't think you have the resources to go out there and assess the technology you need and what do you need to evaluate, I think this model, if successful, will considerably simplify the load it puts putting on organizations to say, where do we invest and what value do we get out of it? Because the data is going to be there, because you'll have value cases for organizations similar to yourself who have realized value. So I think that is going to be a big if you were trying to say what does success looks like for CUSS, I think if we are able to significantly simplify how smaller organizations are making technology purchase decisions and are able to create real-time value cases that can justify the investments that they are making, I think that will be a real mile marker for this initiative. So.
Thank you, Rahul. Steve, your thoughts?
I think you've got a cart and horse situation where we need this platform to have integration within the platform, but not a single credit union is going to move their entire platform to our entire platform even if we get it right. So we've got to help with integrations, implementations, vendor management, because the reality is when we nail it, when we get a platform that really could be the platform of the future, no one's coming all over in one fell swoop, right? So there's a lot of coordination and a lot of business process that has to get figured out in addition to the technology. So I think the future state will be something that we have the entire platform, we have your future state, but we can also help you get there a piece at a time. And a lot of that will depend obviously on the lungs, the heart, the mind, the core, the online banking, the big pieces, those have to move, sequentially, and you pick the sequence. So I think there's some complexities there that we're going to have to wrap our heads around, as well as having the platform itself ready to go.
Thank you, Steve. And this is what this group is facing. There's no blueprint on how to do this. We don't exactly know the right way to try and go about and create this model, but we are taking steps in that direction. So for those of you here today, please get involved in this conversation. It's important. The Underground is putting out some information on what we're trying to do to get this thing going. Participate. Let's hear your voice. We want to hear back from you too, because if we can get this right, we stand to be incredibly relevant in the future, and we stand to have the industry as a whole be amplified and uplifted to the ability to do these kinds of things, because right now there are small credit unions who are struggling, and they can't have the same services available to them that the larger shops can, and this is not equitable, but it should be. And this is a group that can come together and figure out how to do this. So I want to thank my folks who came up on stage with me today, and everyone who took part in the working group. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Chad.
Let's so I get my mic away so I can control things. What questions do we have from the group that's here? Thank you very much to each and every one of you for being here and sharing your perspective. Any questions on what's happening with this technology group? Oh, I see it coming over to you.
What do you see as the biggest barrier to getting small credit unions to even consider something like this?
You go first.
Fear of change. We've heard about that. There's always, do we want to be part of this? What risk does it bring to us? What if this is not successful? So I think that is definitely top of mind. And then, like I said, I think we need to lay the foundation of this by making this successful. You turn 1, you turn 5 leads to 10, right? So I think that's the case. Once you have 5 credit unions or 10 credit unions, whatever the foundation, the first tranche, essentially, right? That gives you the business case. And once you have the business case, there's no shying away from it. If your needs are the same, your objectives are the same, there is no reason why you can't get the same value out of this that some of your other peers are getting it.
I think control is a big one. So they're concerned that they're going to hand over their strategy, which is an extremely important part that we talk about, which is we're the hands that do the work. We'll give you our opinion if you need that, and we'll help you with strategy to an extent. But if you take strategy away from credit unions, then you have their merger bait. So having that control, also so a couple weeks ago, there were some hurricanes, if you guys didn't hear about it. And we had a bunch of credit unions in Florida. A couple of them have never worked with our organization before, but we just said, hey, we're gonna answer your phones, we're gonna process your ACH exceptions, balance your books, we're gonna send out marketing emails, not marketing, education emails to your members while you are dealing with this. So just, here's my cell phone, call me. And we did that for 10 credit unions in Florida, just very, heard a lot about being agile, but very, very quickly, and the team knows how to mobilize very quickly. And so those credit unions now are saying, oh, maybe I should, hey, can we get understand what this looks like for us? So it's not like pushing them into it. And their peers then say, oh, I work with them, and it's a trust exchange then.
I have a question in the back here.
Thank you. It's actually not a question. It's I'd like to continue on the first question and respectfully disagree. I don't think it's fear of change at all. For small credit union CEOs, someone that's spoken to literally hundreds of small credit union CEOs over the last couple of decades, it's groups, not like this, but groups that have come together with similar concepts, and it's all words and no action. And then second is the F words in the industry have substituted good customer service, dynamic technology improvements for credit union ruining fees and services to get out of those contracts. And the groups don't come to the small credit unions with any plan to help them overcome those financial challenges.
I just want to respond. I think you're right. And I think we are going to friggin' do this. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to start spending money together to create those solutions. And so, James, I want to just come back to the fact that Trellance has supported this industry, and you come together to make these things happen. And I'm so excited you kind of called it, because one other point I want to make here, we can build it, like Brandy said earlier, but credit unions got to come. Okay, we got to step in, and you're right, we've got to take action. And so people said to me, well, it hasn't been done, it's been done before, all that stuff. The reality is, it's now, okay? And so I just want to come back to your point. Thank you for being that candid. Thank you, that's what the Underground's all about, right? All of you. So.
And the more powerful we can become as a collective, right? The less power those organizations like a Pfizer or whatever locking us into a 10-year contract, the less power they have, right? We are very strong together. I saw a question up here. Yes, still? No? You were just saying amen. Yes, okay.
It's really a comment, and I want to just say Roxy and I were board members for the Ventura County Credit Union, and we served on the CUSS group, the task force. And in my view of our work in credit union space was about mergers, and whether we merged with somebody bigger or somebody smaller, those were the options that we had. And so now I feel like there's possibility, and that we aren't just, one credit union merging with another credit union. We are a movement, and we're all in it together. So the fact that we are creating options is really exciting. And maybe as board members, we didn't have a lot to contribute to the CUSS group. I feel like, maybe you feel like that too, but you opened our eyes to a larger world and a better world. So thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, if there is one. Any other questions? Well,
I just want to add, like you're saying, we're kind of talking heads up here. So if you believe in this, everybody in this room shaking their head, yeah, we believe in it, then you've got to put your money where your mouth is. So you're all budgeting your budgets right now. So put $5,000 in there and just see what happens next year. Maybe you'll not use it up, but put something in there because that's the only way that you're going to actually do something is you have to, if it's not on the balance sheet, it doesn't exist. So put it on the balance sheet. Yep. That's it.